Justin has been building some of the most advanced AI agents with a focus on marketing workflows. From Mindstudio to multi-agent workflows, he's turning AI into real operator-grade systems. Today, we will get to learn his process of creating these agents, his toolkit, and what all this means for the future of business. Welcome, Justin.
I'm super excited. I absolutely love talking about this stuff.
How do you go from a problem or an idea in the marketing space and then work your way through building an agent?
I break down my big marketing goals into little tiny steps, and I build an agent for each of those little steps, and then I just string them along with automations.
Talk about some of the most compelling problems you've solved with AI.
So the coolest agent that I've built is this one. So what it essentially does is it predicts winning ads before you have to spend any money on them. And we can walk through that one here in a minute, but that
would be great.
Yeah, that was the coolest one that I created. But there, along the way, I just started making little agents that do all the little odds and end jobs for me, like writing an email newsletter, which is the first one that I want to show you. I built an agent that goes through, I just figured out, okay, what are all the steps that I do to write my email newsletter, broke it into little steps, and made an agent that will now write my email newsletter for me. And the good part about that is it will actually be consistent, where I can tend to not be consistent sometimes. It's supposed to go out every Wednesday, and sometimes I miss, but the agent won't miss. And that's where I think people are missing it. Like, these aren't smarter than us or better than humans, but if you tell it to run on Wednesday, it's going to run on Wednesday.
It's an always on digital assistant.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I've got one that writes my newsletter, one that writes my LinkedIn. I'm working on one that'll do my Instagram. And so a lot of these little odds and end jobs and things that I do, I just have agents that do those things now.
Great. Can you show us one of those?
Sure. Okay. All right, so this one is the newsletter one, and I like to show this one because it's very simple. Anybody could really build this one. It looks elaborate because there's a bunch of spots, but they're very, very simple to create. You don't need to know any of the advanced features of Mindstudio to do this, and so we have just a basic start block, nothing special there. It was just in there by default, start and end. So I was trying to get one that would write the whole thing, and that was hard because there's a lot of thinking that has to be done. But then I chunked down my newsletter into the specific parts, and now I can make an agent for each part. So first part is this featured link. And so its job, we normally have a little headline and a feature at the top of our article. It's literally one sentence and a link. This block's job is here's our four different headlines and links that we normally use. And so the only job this thing has to do is to rotate between those four headlines and links and pick one. And then when it picks, save that as a variable called featured link. And we pass that forward, right? So now we've picked what our featured link is going to be at the top. And then the next thing we need an introduction to the newsletter. And so this one, a little bit more advanced, it's going to pick our topic of the newsletter. And so for this project, you're going to choose one of the main frustrations of modern 2025 digital advertisers. That's our market. Then you're going to come up with how Manus, Lovable, Replit, Mindstudio can solve that problem. So look at problems advertisers have, and then pick how one of these tools can solve that problem, and then write an introduction. So this one's doing the job of what are we writing about today? And so it picks what we're going to write about today, and then it writes a very specific introduction where I said, first sentence should be short and highly engaging, followed by a 2-sentence hook and rehook, followed by a sentence describing what they'll learn in today's email, and then end your intro with a new sentence that says, but first, the question of the day, and do not say anything after this. So its only job, pick a topic and write 4 sentences, right? So that's the biggest key I could give people today is everybody's thinking about how to build these elaborate agents, and I watch all these YouTube videos of these N8N things with 50 different blocks in there and stuff. That's cool, but that's really, really hard. What you need to be thinking about is little tiny micro jobs and then passing it forward. So this one picks the featured link, this one writes the intro, this one chooses our poll of the day. We have 4 or 5 polls that we rotate between. This one is the article writer, and each of them saves to a variable. So the article writer kind of has maybe the hardest job. It looks at the intro. So because we gave the intro a variable called intro, we can pass that over to the article writer here in the prompt. You are a world-class copywriter. You have decades of experience writing email newsletters. Target audience is our target audience based on this intro. So make sure you write an article that matches our intro. I want you to assess the topic, the frustrations. The goal is to write about a 400 to 600 word persuasive article in the style and tone of Justin Brooke, and it knows we've trained it on my voice. And then, so it's going to write my article. And then at the very end, it's going to end your article. So each one of these are pieces. They all have their own individual job to write a piece of the newsletter. And then we have the newsletter publisher, where we pass all the pieces to the newsletter publisher to put it all together and then just display it to me. Now, you can add another block here, connect Zapier, and then Zapier will connect it to your Kit or your MailChimp or your Beehive or your ActiveCamp, whatever it is, and it can be completely automated. Your start block, you could choose instead of on demand, which means I click run in order for it to start, I could choose scheduled. And so it would just run on a schedule. And then I use Zapier and I could connect it to my email list and it could just run without any interference. And that's the big difference between AI and AI agents. An AI agent, you close your laptop, you walk away, the work is getting done.
Right. It could be more autonomous. And then plus in this case, I know you have it set as on demand, but in theory, you could set it as a scheduled job. So it runs at a specific time every day or every week, depending on your frequency. So
with my market, I am still a recognized expert and they really care about my voice on things. And so
yes.
I still run things with human in the loop. In other little side project stuff, I just let things run without me, But this one, human in the loop, so it displays it to me. That way I can grab it, post it, and I can change it.
Validate. Yeah, makes sense. So Justin, when you said that you have trained it in your voice, are you using any of the data sources?
So if you've never blogged, you've never wrote an email, social media before, then it might be hard. But I've been doing that for a long time. So I just went and grabbed a bunch of my emails, a bunch of my blog posts, and gave it all to, I use Claude now, but I used to use ChatGPT. Either will work. I just gave all my writing to the AI and said, I want you to define what my voice style and tone is. And it wrote this really long paragraph. And I said, okay, you're showing off. All I need is like one paragraph, a nice little punchy, describe what my voice is like. And so I just have that paragraph. And now that I have that paragraph, I can include that in any of my writings anywhere. And so when I say write like Justin Brooke, it knows to use that paragraph to describe my style of writing.
Okay, so that's part of your instructions framework.
Yeah. Okay. Instead of it training on a body of my work, I just have a little style, and I find that to be.
You've done the pre-work and then fed the summary off it, which makes sense. Yeah.
All right, let's see if we are good to go over here.
You can go back to the interface once again. Maybe talk about models. I know Mindstudio has 90 plus models to pick from for different kinds of activities, whether you're solving for text versus image versus voice versus video, what kind of cost or speed or latency you're looking to balance. So maybe talk about that and just generally, what is your framework of picking which model you generally work with?
Yeah, each of these, so these are just called generate text blocks. These are kind of the four main ones, and then there's a bunch of different blocks. It'll do almost anything you can think of, but with a generate text block, which is essentially, think of it as just calling ChatGPT, right? It's just a prompt and you're saving that prompt and then it moves forward. Well, you can choose any model that you want down here, and there's a bunch of different models that you can choose from. A lot of my marketing is create ads, create content. So I use Claude 4 for a lot of that stuff. And then sometimes I need to pick something, choose this, choose that, think about this, create a process. In those moments, I'll use DeepSeek because that model is specifically trained on reasoning. And then sometimes I just need something that's really fast and cheap. And that's when I'll use Gemini 2.5 Flash. And so if we look at the costs, Claude 4 is $3 per million tokens. That's like 300,000 words or 200,000 words. So it's like $3 per 200,000 words. DeepSeek is 55 cents per 200,000 words. And then Gemini 2.5 Flash is only 15 cents per 200. And so you might think of it as like freshman, sophomore, senior in some ways. It's not really the greatest way to think about it, but Gemini 2.5 Flash is like when I just need to like either or choose at random, really simple tasks. That way it's fast and cheap and doesn't cost much. If you build your whole thing using Claude 4, your agents will start to cost you $1 or more per run. DeepSeek is very cheap. So that's models.
That's great to know. I tend to use Claude the most, but I like how you're thinking about breaking it down by different tasks. I'll experiment that as well.
Yeah, it will save you some money. This bot usually costs me anywhere from 23 cents to 78 cents to write my newsletter, which is flabbergastingly amazing. I normally would have paid like $2,000 a month for a writer to do this for me, and now I'm paying 78 cents every time I process it. And so, yeah, choosing the models really helps you optimize your cost efficiencies.
Makes sense. Plus, I like that you can pick different model for different boxes here as well, because it really allows you to match the right problem with the right kind of capability also. So, Justin, I see you're done with the agent. Yeah,
so
let's
my
see your
newsletter
output.
is done. If I wanted to, I could set this to scheduled at 6 a.m. every morning. And that means when I come into my office at 6 a.m., I didn't have to wait for it to write. It's just done and ready on my screen. I can just copy, paste, edit however I want. But you see here, it picked out our featured. It came up with a subject line. It chose our featured thing of the day. It wrote our intro. Today, you'll learn how to clone your best performing creatives in 3 clicks, and why 𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗵 is about to become your sleep-deprived brain's BFF. I'd probably change that line there. That got a little too creative. But first, the question of the day. So we go into the question of the day. Then we've got our article. And then we've got our prompt of the day. And we're done. And so let's see. It should have the bottom line, stop, make money if you're ready to escape. It doesn't look like it added my call to action in there. And so this is why, one, I need to tweak my prompts a little bit better, but also this is why I don't just have it auto-publishing. It did the bulk of the work. And so now I can just copy paste this, put it into my newsletter. I can add 3 or 4 sentences to it and I'm done. Instead of it taking me 2 hours, now it's going to take me, 10 minutes to do.
Yeah. So 2 things here, right? I think we all recognize that ultimately we are dealing with a probabilistic system, not a deterministic system. So that's why it's important to keep human in the loop, right? Because the output is going to vary, and the value of your review and your perspective, right, as an expert is always going to stay relevant in this process. And the other thing is, as you start to build, you're not necessarily building with a mindset that this is going to be a finished product on day one. As you build it, as you use it, you're going to continue to iterate on your flows, on your blocks, on your instructions, so that it can continue to enhance and evolve with your needs and also with your preferences. So that's critical part of anyone who's kind of on this building journey. Justin, thank you for all these great insights and really showing us how you're harnessing the power of AI, and then also how you're turning all these great tools into real, meaningful operating solutions for yourself and your clients.
All right, great.
Thank you.